Hello everyone, Pitch Canker here with another video, and today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I am going to be drawing a nightmare I had last night, so let's get into it. Also, I'm drawing this piece on Procreate using an iPad Pro for anybody interested in the software. So I've actually had this nightmare before, and I'm standing in a field. There is a shack behind me, and there is a person in the distance digging a hole. And so I go into this shack, and there's a woman there, and she's staring out the window. And I go up and talk to her for a minute, and she's staring at the figure in the field. And she tells me, "Do not stare at that figure for too long." And I ask why, and she says, "It'll make it very upset." And so, without a second thought, every time I have this dream, I look directly at the figure and I stare at it for a while. And all of a sudden, it snaps its head towards me, and it's a skull. And instead of just sitting on its head like, I guess, like a normal skull would, it begins to snap suddenly and dislocate from its jaw. And it's so frightening every time it happens. And the woman stares at me and she starts yelling, "What have you done? Why would you do that? I told you not to do that." And, the figure starts running at me at such a fast speed. It starts almost shuffling. It drops its shovel and it just starts making its way towards me at top speed. It's basically a black cloaked figure with this dislodged skull, and I just start running. I run from it, and I run into the city, and I can hear it behind me. Boom, 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 boom. Big heaving footsteps, and I can hear its breathing, and it's just awful. Chase dreams are terrible to begin with, or chase nightmares, I guess. But this one, I'm running upstairs in these abandoned buildings, and there's nobody around. And so eventually, I think I escape this creature or this skeleton, and I go find myself in the field again. I go to where it was digging the hole, and every time I look in the hole, the creature is there, and it has a shovel, and it just lunges at me, and that's the end of my dream. And so today, what I wanted to do was kind of try and capture the feeling of it looking at me for the first time. I thought that would be a really fun way to kind of examine the dream or the nightmare. So I started with the skull because that's the focal point, and I messed around with it quite a bit, trying to get it right, trying to get it at this place where it felt like an actual frightening skull. I think when drawing skulls sometimes, especially in an illustrative sense, they can come out really goofy, and I did not want that feeling. I wanted a feeling of like shrieking terror from this, and there's a fine line to balance when doing things like this. As you can see, I'm making a lot of adjustments here. I'm distorting it a lot. I actually try and get it so it's almost a different perspective at this point. I'm trying to build it out in a way that it's almost like shrieking and looking at me, and it's like, I'm trying to give the feeling that it's opening its jaws in an unnatural way. And at this point, I was really unsatisfied with how it was coming out. And so I'm moving things around, I'm trying to change things. And what I eventually end up doing is really pushing that skull all the way, almost like someone broke it from the jaw. So it's almost completely horizontal with the body. And at this point, I still feel like it looks very goofy, and so I make the decision to make its shoulder much higher. So it's almost like the head that is now broken off is leaning on the shoulder. And to me, that gave it a lot more of like a frightening appearance. Because a big part of horror is, to me, body gestures and like the way things approach you and the way things kind of lunge and move and walk. And one of the things I was thinking of in the dream is, or the nightmare rather, is how this creature was moving towards me with like a shuffle. Not quite a walk, not quite a run, but like it was almost like leaning up on itself and kind of brushing up against itself as it started making its way towards me. And so the shoulder felt like a good adjustment. Now, talking about the color in this piece, I made the focal point white, which is the skull, and I anchored it to the body, which is black. And I like to anchor the bottom of pieces with black because it just draws the eye down towards the bottom of the piece, which I just enjoy. I think it's a good use of space, and it's a good way to adjust the flow of the piece. It also gives me this nice red negative space area and almost breaks the piece up into two halves, with the skull being the white focal point. And I do love the red as the background because it really gives this feeling of panic, of just not safety. It feels unsafe. It feels like this thing, you're in this presence and it's going to do something bad to you. Now, I did make some adjustments to this piece after I recorded this section, so I'll put it up at the end here so you can see what the final product ended up looking like. But This is ultimately my whole process for this. I wanted to capture less of a figure and more of a feeling, more of a vibe, more of like this thing exists in my mind. How do I bring it into reality? And I think when drawing a dream or a nightmare or anything, I think the most important thing is to capture that feeling as quickly as possible, because dreams and nightmares are fleeting and they are an amazing source of inspiration. So, if you have a dream or a nightmare, next time you have one, maybe draw it. Some people dream journal. I think it would be a really cool thing to draw more of your dreams and nightmares. So, as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching until the end of the video. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited about these YouTube videos and doing more of them. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please let me know. I'm trying to do a bunch of cool ones. And of course, thank you to Patreon supporters. I updated the list with all the new people, and I just really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day. Also, here's the final piece. I think it came out really terrifying, so thanks for watching.